Part 10, the following. Her stalking me. While ignoring Alana, she planned to travel 68 minutes from her home in Kitsilano in Vancouver to my home, before I moved, in New Westminster, one city away. I could have not been home or told her to fuck off. She would have wasted 136 minutes. Her plan altered when, by major fluke, she ran into me at the Sapperton station 54 minutes away from her home. I told her to go away and emoted it while carrying a box of video games that I was going to sell. She followed me into the SkyTrain station to Columbus station and then into SkyTrain Gateway in Surrey, 2 cities away from her home, 18 minutes later. She continued to walk with me to the video game store even though I kept telling her to go away and ran a few times. We arrived 5 minutes later, but because the boss wasn't there, we walked to Central City Shopping Center by Surrey Central Station 17 minutes later. I stopped ignoring her, after I sold the games, when she broke down crying at the food court. She was 59 minutes away from her home, followed me for 40 minutes since she ran into me, walked with me for 22 minutes, and 94 minutes had passed when she started her journey. She was unable to contain her emotions due to the fact that I was ignoring her, and therefore was enslaved by them. According to her, it doesn't matter that she stalked me because she only did it once. Why would she continue after I stopped ignoring her? A long time ago. If a long time ago erases the past, then why did she put the club incident on the police report? Me stalking her? The hug. Her home is on one of the fastest routes between Lucky's and mine. Her home is also one of the fastest routes between Culprit and mine. I saw Alana by her gate by major fluke when I heard it open at 10:15 a.m. on my way back home from Culprit. I walked diagonally onto the yard toward her. Perhaps she called me a psychopath when I talked to her because she thought I was hiding in the non-obscuring bushes that were between us until she walked by. In actuality, I was merely standing behind them for 2 seconds due to hesitation. She never ran or told me to go away when I walked with her to talk to her, although she did emote it, but I was too enslaved by my emotions to notice at the time. Part of me could tell that she was lying when she told me that she'd call me later, and she did walk a bit fast, but I thought she was merely late to school. I couldn't endure the nightmare anymore, and just wanted her to tell me why she was spontaneously ignoring me again, but she kept bottling the truth, as if I could read her mind. After we turned onto you, I thought she'd stop when I hand signaled her to. I let her continue once I realized she wouldn't, and assumed she didn't because she would have been late for school. Once my heart told me that she's gone forever, by impulse, I briefly and non-violently hugged her, crying, "I'm sorry, I love you," and let her go once I realized she wasn't going to hug me back. I stopped walking with her shortly after, she turned around to say bye, and walked away. She was almost at 4th. I walked with her for 2 minutes, and her home is a 10-minute walk, 7 blocks on 1 avenue, away from mine. To my knowledge at the time, she never clearly indicated that she actually wanted me to go away. The hold. I waited for her to return that afternoon on 5th and U to play a song that she likes for her on my saxophone to make her talk, and ran toward her when I saw her ignore me on 4th, only to again act like a big baby while I walked with her to talk to her again. We entered Purdy's, but she left shortly after. "I know you still love me," I said as we walked toward her home. "I hate you. Hate is love." I held her hand, but she eventually threw it away. I eventually persuaded her to stop when I hand signaled her to, but instead of listening to me, I had to grab her phone to stop her from calling the police. Then she called her mom to rescue her when I would have stepped aside had she persisted to keep walking, and although I would have continued to walk with her, I would have stopped before her gate. We were standing on the lane to the back of their apartment. I walked with them toward the back door and briefly and non-violently held her hand out of fear that I would never see her again. "It's over forever," she shouted. "I just want to die." I let go and fell to the ground and cried. "Then die," she devilishly replied just before she cowardly sprinted inside as if that was the chance to escape. I walked with her for 5 minutes. The setup? "Ew, that's disgusting," I heard Alana say out of nowhere while I was walking at night, minding my own business, and blowing my nose. I looked up to see her standing in front of my path, just a few meters ahead, crossing her arms and looming from the darkness. "Don't follow me," she cowardly said to prevent me from defending myself. We were 1 block away from her home, that is en route between Culprit, where I was just at, and mine. Because she was going home where I was going to walk past anyway, she synchronized our journeys by waiting for me to walk up to her, and therefore should have desynchronized them. You can't run up to someone, insult that person, and then tell that person to not follow you to prevent that person from standing up for themselves, especially if that person happens to be walking your way. Sure, we were only 1 block away from her home, but we were also 10 blocks away from mine. I told her to let me know if she wanted me to always reroute away from her home, but she never did. She technically followed me from the intersection to her home for 1 minute. Evaluation. Alana traveled 54 minutes to look for me, and followed me for 40, 22 on foot, and from 1 to 2 cities away from her home when I was ignoring everyone. I clearly indicated that I wanted her to go away by telling her and running a few times. After briefly synchronizing our journeys home by waiting for me to walk up to her, she insulted me and then immediately told me not to follow her to try to stop me from defending myself. She synchronically walked with me for 1 minute. In total, she walked with me for 41 minutes after being emoted to leave. After running into her by her home, that is a 10-minute walk away from mine, when she was spontaneously ignoring me after we were supposed to hang out again just a few days ago, after so much emotional torture, I followed her for 2 minutes. After waiting for her to return, I followed her for 5 minutes. She never clearly indicated that she wanted me to go away. She did walk a bit fast and briefly sprint one, but I thought she was just late to school. In total, I walked with her for 7 minutes after being emoted to leave. She followed me from 1 to 2 cities away from her home, while I followed her in my own area. In total, she still followed me on foot for 14 minutes longer. I was bottling emotions that were 45 times the magnitude she had already raped and cheated on me just before she ignored me, that she had bottled. I just ignored her. I stopped ignoring her when she cried. She continued to do so after she told me to die after I fell down and cried. Therefore, had she been in the set of circumstances that she put me in, had I raped and cheated on her just before I ignored her, she'd not been able to stop thinking about me due to being stuck in my area, and had just moved close to my home that was a 10-minute walk away, although she denies it, it's quite evident that she would have continued to stalk me had I continued to ignore her, and she would have done so worse than everything she falsely believes I did. How can I know that she never unsuccessfully looked for me before? Why did she report me when I never reported her? It is unfair and hypocritical. It is also ironic that she stalked me before, since she is a lawyer, and therefore a representative of the law. She never knew better? According to her, it doesn't matter that she stalked me worse, because she only did it once. Why would she do it again after I stopped ignoring her, while she did it the first time, a long time ago? If time erases the past, then why does she still care about my bullshit that was also a long time ago? Ew and I. Part 11. The Coincidence. I followed her? Alana later admitted that she merely thinks I saw her at the bus on 4th and Vine. Like after she saw me almost cross her path when I blew my nose, she falsely assumed that I must have and then planned for us to cross paths. She chooses to believe the worst to shield her guilt. I was still pretty far from crossing her path, and why would I blow my cover by blowing my nose and be looking down when I should have been looking straight? Wouldn't it have been easier just to contact her immediately at the bus stop? I didn't even know she had an evening job. She followed me? It is possible that she actually set me up. Even though her mom told her that I was at Culprit, right around the corner from the bus stop, 3 hours in advance, she refused to reroute farther away from it? I couldn't have been much of a threat then. Perhaps she peeked around the corner and spied on me until I left shortly after. Then she was the one to plan the cross. The reality. Truth is, I never saw her exit the bus, for I was still surfing the internet at Culprit, where the bus stop cannot be seen. Our paths almost crossing was most likely coincidental. As she was about to turn left at the intersection, she looked to the right to see me when she heard me blow my nose. Angry at falsely assuming that I had planned for our paths to cross after seeing her exit the bus, she said, "Ew, that's disgusting," and accused me of stalking her as she waited for me to walk up to her. I looked up to see her standing, facing me with her arms crossed, and looming from the darkness. Angry at assuming that she planned for our paths to cross after spying on me at Culprit, and for being insulted after I had just given her a handwritten apology letter and diamond ring, even though she falsely told me not to follow her, I had to stand up for myself, and so I told her off. Because she had waited for me to walk up to her, and I was going to walk past her home, that was on one of the fastest routes between Culprit and mine, anyway, she technically followed me to her home.